Good afternoon. My name is Natasha Henry and welcome back to SoccerX Connected. I am so happy about the guest I'm going to be interviewing today for you all to find out more about her amazing career. She's a footballer, lawyer, author, pundit, and more recently, a director of football. It's my pleasure to introduce Eniola Aluko.
Hi, Natasha. Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. Thank you for joining us. I was doing some research on your career, obviously, before we spoke. You made your debut for Birmingham at 15 years old. You played for Chelsea, you played for Juventus, 102 England caps, 33 goals, 5 games for Team GB in the Olympics, 3 women's Super Leagues, 3 FA Cups, a Serie A, a Coppa Italia, and that is not all of it. I think I can see behind you, your trophy cabinet looks pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm super proud of my career. I packed a lot in, that's for sure. And, it's only now when you retire, you're able to reflect and look back and think, wow, okay, it was really worth it. There was lots of, you mentioned a lot of trophies there. You mentioned a lot of winning, but there was a lot of downs as well. There was some failure that actually, without those failures, I wouldn't be where I am also. So an amazing journey, one I'm very proud of, and one that just continues to motivate me to keep doing more and hopefully inspire others to reach their best version of themselves as well.
I mean, when you were starting out, a couple of decades ago, did you ever imagine that you'd now be sitting here and not only have had such an amazing career, but been so influential within the world of women's football?
My imagination is quite a big one, but growing up, I didn't really envisage becoming a professional footballer just because it didn't exist. And so my whole life, I've had to kind of try and try and believe something that I didn't really see, and try and sort of create a path and forge a path for my career that wasn't really something that I envisaged. And that's what's really made it quite fun. The generation of players that played under Hope Powell and as an England manager, and were part of the WSL when it first went professional. We sort of were pioneers, really, of women's football as a professional sport, and we've been really lucky to kind of see where the game has gone, but also we've experienced still playing, paying for subs and paying for to play. So we've experienced both sides of it, and I was definitely a part of that. So it's nice to be able to say, I wasn't able to visualize what my life would become, but now I'm here, and hopefully I can keep creating new memories in what I'm doing now.
I mean, talking about, back in the day when the WSL started, we have to discuss this with you being so linked with Chelsea. How amazing was it for you to see Emma and the girls and the whole Chelsea women's staff there at a Champions League final, even though it wasn't the perfect result for them? I can imagine that was absolutely amazing for you to watch.
Oh, I was so proud. I was so proud. A lot of the players in that team are really good friends of mine. I would probably consider some of them family. Emma Hayes is a good friend of mine and someone who really helped my career. Paul Green, all the backroom staff, even up to Bruce Buck, who, I still keep in touch with, the chairman of the club. So I just felt a great sense of pride because I knew how long it has taken and all the hard work that's been put in to get to the Champions League final. Obviously, on the night, Barcelona were just clearly better. But I also believe that, I read something recently that both in men's and women's football, the debutants in Champions League finals don't tend to win it.
Yes.
Win it sort of the second or third time round. So, I'm very optimistic about Chelsea's chances in the future because that experience of losing in that final is going to hold them in good stead. And I think even Barcelona lost 2 years ago in 2019. That experience then pushed them to win 2 years later. So watch this space, I think, for Chelsea with the Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, so onto your new project, because I'm very excited. I've interviewed Julie before, so this Angel City FC, I think, is going to be revolutionary for women's football and particularly women's football in America. So for those who don't know, it's going to be a new women's football team. They'll be joining the National Women's Soccer League next year in 2022, and they'll play at the Bank of California Stadium in Los Angeles. I believe that's right. So when you this is a new concept. So when you look at the co-founders, co-owners of this team, we have Natalie Portman, Cara Nortman, Julie Ehrman, who we mentioned before, Serena Williams, Billie Jean King, Mia Hamm, Sophia Bush, Abby Wambach, Uzu Aduba, and Candice Parker. Was was there anything about all these amazing women that made it crucial for you to say yes to this opportunity when it came around?
I mean, when you say their names, I still get goosebumps, to be honest, because, Billie Jean King, Serena Williams, Abby Wambach, they're like women that I've grown up watching and admiring all of my life. So the chance and the opportunity, obviously, to work with them was a game changer for me. And more so, what they're trying to do in women's sport, not just in women's football, in women's sport, really try and rewrite how women's sports teams are formed and exist, and are shaped, and the culture, and the importance for women's sports to really be connected to the community, the brand value of a women's sports team, I think, through the merchandise and through the fact that already Angel City is so visible around the world without a ball being kicked. And there's something in that. So I'm super excited to be part of such an innovative, forward thinking, progressive organization, because to be honest, that's not something that I think you can always say about football. Football is steeped in tradition, it's steeped in history, which is fantastic, which is amazing. But there's also opportunities, I think, to do new things that sometimes a lot of people resist against. And this is a chance, I think, to work with a group of people, and for me to lead within an organization where I can really think in a progressive and revolutionary, forward-thinking way. So I'm super excited to do that.
I mean, the title director of football, I think there's a lot of misconception about what that job actually entails. So if you could just give us a bit of information about, is it buying players, is it scouting players, who would you deal with on a day-to-day basis within the club, and how do you contribute to the wider success of the club?
Yeah, so sporting director or director of football role, my main sort of focus is putting the squad together, squad of players together, and the squad of staff together. So often in professional sports, sometimes the staff there's more than the players. So we call that the multidisciplinary team. So everyone from the coach to the sports science team to the medical staff to the data and analytics staff, putting that team together that's going to eventually support the squad of players. Obviously, in the American system, it's slightly different to England, where you have a trade system. So gonna have to get used to to understanding the trade system. It's a little bit like a game of chess, a game that I love. I love chess, and figuring out sort of all the trades and all the system. Obviously, working with agents to find players, but also the wider part is working with the league, to make sure that Angel City is obviously compliant with the league rules. But what's I think is going to be really fun for me is really being part of shaping the culture of the club. So making sure that essentially Angel City is a club that is connecting with community, players are connecting with community. The brand, I want the brand to be a global one. I want the football club to be reflective of a global outlook. So obviously that's going to mean players from all over the world. So there's lots to my job, but that's the sort of nuts and bolts of it, that I'm really excited to get my teeth stuck into.
To delve into that a bit further, Julie Ehrman, who's a co-founder and president, when they announced your appointment, she said she personifies the values of our club and shares our passion to challenge the status quo, push boundaries, and try new things. Do you think your journey through football, starting out from a more community level, and the fight that you've had to go through in helping women's football be where it is today, is why that you feel such a unity already with Angel City and their ethos and their belief in supporting the community?
Yeah, I mean, I think my life, both on and off the pitch, has transcended the pitch. So whether that's me working with UN to make sure, female education around the world is something that's prioritized in Africa and around the world, in the UK, whether that's, fighting for my own equality and my own fighting against discrimination, whether that's standing up for my teammates in terms of improving the contracts, which back in 2007 weren't good enough, given the fact that we were in the World Cup, whether that's working with Common Goal to give back, from a philanthropic point of view, to causes that really mean a lot to me. That's who I am. That's been my life. Forget football, forget, kicking a ball in the back of the net. That was my job. That's what I love to do. But to the core of me, my purpose and a lot of the things that I put my energy into has been around uh, challenging the status quo, or reshaping culture, or giving to communities, and giving to women around the world, or young girls around the world, or inspiring them to try and reach the best version of themselves. And I think that alignment was just instantly there when I spoke to Angel City. That's certainly what they sort of, their purpose-led organization. And those are the organizations that I've always been drawn to throughout my life. So it's nothing new. You're not really recreating a wheel in terms of the relationship. I'm doing what I've always done. And it's nice to feel compatible with an organization that wants to lead in that way too.
I mean, you touched on the situation where you were discriminated against, and with the English national team, which I think is a really disappointing part of our history. From that, has it made you more determined to fight for equality? And what have you learned in terms of what do you want to implement within a football organization that you didn't see when you needed that support?
Well, I think for me, I like to sort of reframe it as an opportunity and not a fight. Um, it was a very difficult part of my career, but I'd like to think that I rose above it and cracked on anyway, and succeeded anyway. And the reason I did that, I think, is because I'm very proud of who I am as a Black woman. And so when you're very proud of who you are as a Black woman, you then see great things in other people who are from other, diverse backgrounds. So for me, my aim is diversity and inclusion. Um, that's what I was fighting against. I was fighting against a lack of diversity, and a lack and an exclusive environment that didn't include everyone. So I want to reshape that, in a football team, and create a diverse team that can be seen by so many different kinds of people in the community and around the world, but an inclusive culture. And that means inclusive behavior. So, people really feeling at home. I was part of Chelsea for 6 years, and there's no coincidence that all of the internationals have been there for 5, 6 years. Why?
Yeah.
Because they feel at home. So I've been part of that environment where I've played with players from all over the world, some who couldn't even speak English when they arrived at the club. And I know what that looks like. So diversity and inclusion is my way of not fighting, but reshaping what the opposite looks like, if that makes sense.
I think that's a really important message for people to hear. And I think sometimes maybe you don't see, but you standing up for yourself, what was right, and standing up for others is setting the trend for the younger ones coming through that are following us. So I hope you're aware of how important it is what you did, which,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
look at where you are now. Women's football as a whole, on a more positive subject, what is the biggest difference you would say since the start of your career, and where do you think the next biggest change is going to be?
I think, obviously the professionalism of the game has improved exponentially. So now, there's an expectation for players to be training at professional training centers with professional resources, everything from nutrition to sports science to recovery to medical facilities. Everything is now coming into the game, which I think is important. Um, the competition level has increased all around the world, so all the different leagues. I think the competition level is definitely there, and which improves players, which helps the coaching as well. The coaching, in the women's game has improved as well. I think where it's going is, I hope that now commercially, um, an economy created for the women's game that really means that, we can start to really shape the future in a way that is secure. I don't think security has always been the sort of status quo for women's football, but now you're seeing, TV companies really investing in the broadcasting. You're seeing commercial entities, Angel City being a perfect example, have done some amazing commercial deals already without any players. So hopefully that will be the future where, there's a sort of commercial attraction, and there's an economy created in the game that's really going to help us really push the professional boundaries for players.
What would you say the biggest differences between UK and US women's football? And is there something that they could each learn from each other to better the league?
I think in the UK, the advantage for a lot of the women's teams, is that they have ready-made professional men's teams and professional men's environments that they can fall back on, to, as I've just said, with all the professional resources available to them. So obviously I'm coming from Aston Villa. Aston Villa was training at Bodymore Heath, which is one of the best training grounds in the country. I played at Chelsea, the same. So pretty quickly, women's football in England went from being sort of semi-professional to professional overnight,
Yeah,
because
there was already the
there was
infrastructure.
already the infrastructure. In America, that's not necessarily always the case. So there's much more onus on the owners and the ownership groups to really make that front and center of the agenda, because there's not necessarily always a sort of ready-made professional environment. So you have to create that, and players expect that. And if you don't get that right, unfortunately, players will leave and players will go to other countries. The best players will go to other countries, which I think you saw over the past 2 years with some of the best American players moving to Europe. So, I'm really keen to make sure that that is front and center of the player experience at Angel City. And I hope that, obviously the rest of the league make that important as well, because honestly, that's how all the leagues have to compete. They have to really provide the best resources, professional environments for players.
So personally and professionally, what are your immediate and long-term aims for the director of football role at Angel City?
Well, there's lots of steps. We don't kick off for another year, so there's lots of steps. But I think fundamentally, I want to create a team that is, as I said, diverse, is people-led, is very inclusive, is fun to watch, exciting to watch, unpredictable, and is engaged with the community. I want to create this sort of FOMO in a way where people are like, I want to go to LA
Yeah.
and watch that team. That's the overarching aim. There's lots of little objectives within that, but I'll be very proud if we can create that. And obviously, I like to win as well.
Well, that's
Winning
the aim of the game.
that's the aim of the game. But there's lots of steps to winning. Performance always comes first before winning. And if you get the performance bit right, and if you get the people bit right, you're on a good way. So yeah, that would be my overall aim, I think.
And a wider women's football question. Obviously, we've had the Euros delayed. Is there any players or teams you think are going to benefit from the delayed tournament? Because I think there's going to be a lot of youngsters, someone like Lauren James, who's now had a lot more games before the tournament comes around. Is there anyone else we should be keeping an eye on?
I think Lauren James is a perfect example of someone who has really kind of been in the system for a long time, but is really only coming to the fore now. Big fan of Lauren James, and obviously she just watched her brother pick up the Champions League. She'll be very inspired to do more.
Well, there's rumours she may be joining your friends next season.
Yeah, I saw that rumor. Although I'm not sure how true it is. I think Manchester United might not let her go easily. I think someone like Ebony Salmon, who's obviously moved to Louisville, depending on how well she does, she may get a sniff as well with another year to go. Those are two very exciting players that I've been sort of watching, keeping an eye on over the past few years, and obviously forwards as well. So I tend to be a bit biased towards forwards. But I think generally that the England team will benefit from this Olympic experience. It's another major tournament. Obviously, it's not the entire England team, and there's been some quite surprising omissions. I was surprised to see Jordan Nobbs not make it. Surprised to see Alex Greenwood not make it. But I think that's going to help the team, a lot of those players, get ready for the home Euros.
So back to Angel City. What do you want to say to anyone who's maybe in England or Europe and looking for a second team to support, or the American fans who maybe haven't nailed down who their soccer team is? What do you want to tell them about why they should be watching Angel City, following and coming to the stadium?
Well, I'd like to think that the strength of the ownership group, the purpose-led, mission-led approach, the community approach, the merchandise, the scale in which the club are really trying to go about it, playing at Bank of California Stadium, which is an incredible stadium, downtown LA. I mean, LA in of itself is a very global facing city, lots of creativity, innovation, lots of amazing sports teams. So I'd like to think with all of those things, we will create a team that people just want to come and watch, or people want to watch on TV. And it becomes a team that people just like and affiliate with and support. I think it really helps that Angel City is a standalone women's team and not necessarily attached to a men's club, because again, you can sort of have your own men's club and then have your women's team. And I hope the women's team is Angel City. So get behind us, support, come to LA. Come to LA. The seat deposits are, I think the seat deposits are available now. So, and I think that's going really well. So there's, if you want to get a seat deposit, come to LA and come and watch the team next year.
Well, I think it's a bit sunnier in LA than it is at the moment in Yorkshire. So you might see me there soon. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, Eni. I wish you all the luck at Angel City. And my name's Natasha Henry. I was speaking to Eni Aluko for SoccerX.
Cheers. Thanks.